Do you love party games? Do you love a classic whodunit? Well, I have the game for you. Paranormal Detectives is a abstract, crime-solving sort of party game for 2 to 6 players from Lucky Duck Games. It takes the hilarity of confined expression as seen in other games like Codenames or Mysterium to a whole new level. Without further ado, let's get into the review. Hello everyone and welcome back to the BattleCast. I'm going to be reviewing Paranormal Detectives today, and this is a party-ish game. It's a little more formatted than like your bigger 10-player party games, but it still has that sort of theme to it, and it's a very fun, unique game, and it's well regarded by a lot of people. Now, as always, I review games based on gameplay components and fun factor, and let's go ahead and jump into gameplay. In Paranormal Detectives, one player takes on the role of a recently deceased victim of an unsolved crime, a ghost if you will. The other players play as kooky paranormal detectives who are attempting to solve this crime through unconventional means. Fingerprints and DNA tests won't do you any good here, so I hope you've brushed up on your tarot card reading skills. The goal of the game is obviously to solve the crime. If someone solves the crime perfectly, the ghost and that player win the game. Otherwise, the victor goes to the person who guessed the most categories correctly. The categories of the crime include who, what, where, why, and weapon. To start the game, the ghost reads a scenario card to themselves which outline exactly how the victim died, and this is going to give the ghost a good idea of how to express themselves during the game. The ghost identifies the sex of the victim and then says a few short words describing generally the appearance of the body, like worker's outfit and young man. Now, the real fun of the game comes in the form of how the detectives are forced to ask their questions to the ghost. Each detective has some variation of method for how to communicate with the recently deceased. To ask a question, players pick a non-yes or no question they want the answer to, choose a card from their hand which is going to outline how they're going to receive that information, and then play it on the table. These include, but are not limited to, drawing on a detective's back, using a Ouija board, and emitting a short 3-second sound. So, a question could be like, where were you killed? And then the ghost will, like, I don't know, maybe if you were killed in the ocean, they'd be like, and you'd have to guess maybe they were underwater or something like that. All detectives at the table can then write whatever information they gleaned from that answer on their detective sheet, which will hopefully help them piece together the case. After their turn, that detective can attempt to solve the case, and if they do, they fill in what they think is the correct answer on their sheet, and then they pass their board to the ghost. And if correct, of course, the game ends, but if not correct, the ghost will write a number on their sheet outlining how many categories they have correct. Now, each detective actually only gets 2 guesses, so if you guess twice and you're wrong both, you have to sit out the rest of the game, and your highest correct number of guesses is recorded. Now, the ghost has a few tricks up their sleeve. Every time somebody attempts to solve the case and is wrong, the ghost can actually play a card of their own, which allows them to give information about the case, but there's no context behind the information they're giving. So they might, arrange some strings in a funny looking pattern, and there was no question asked, so you really have to dig deep. Not very helpful. If everybody's guessed twice or the crime's solved, the game ends. Now let's talk about the components. Paranormal Detectives is actually a pretty fun-filled box. You get all sorts of knickknacks inside to help you solve the case. The quality of the player boards, the cards, the knickknacks, it's all nice and sturdy and will easily last you hundreds of playthroughs. The art in the game is really cute. The style, despite its grim nature, has a very, cartoony or a pleasant feel, so it's good for all ages. There's a good choice of colors, there's a nice diverse detective crew, but the art really does serve, very little purpose in the game. You're not going to be looking at it that often, but I like that they put effort into it anyway. One thing I really like about the components is the use of dry erase markers and dry erase boards. There's no need for paper, and wasting paper. Might as well have something that can last you, indefinitely. And speaking of long lasting, this game comes with a ton of scenarios. It is a lot of hours of fun for a very reasonable price. And it should be noted that some of these scenarios are more adult themed, maybe involving crimes of passion or drugs or even suicide. And these crimes are labeled with a adult content sticker on them, so they're easily identifiable. If you want to play this game with younger kids, you can just kind of put those cards aside. Now moving on to fun factor. So Paranormal Detectives is pretty fun, and I think you're going to know pretty well if this is going to fit your player group. Because of the nature of this game, there's actually a lot of replayability, and that's because the fun and the experience of the game comes from those you are playing with, not really actually the scenario. I mean, unless you somehow are able to remember, the 3 words associated with the description of the body and the arrangement of wound tokens, you're going to have a hard time remembering one of 100 scenarios. And that, in essence, is what makes Paranormal Detectives so fun. It is the group experience, it is the vibe, it is the player interaction that make a scenario fun. How will your friends ask questions? What will the ghosts consider the most important aspect when trying to express their answer? There are so many laughs in this game as people fail to comprehend what the ghost is trying to say. While detectives are technically trying to win on their own, side discussions can happen as the group grapples with the information they've just been given. If you like party games, especially like ones such as charades, this is a no-brainer game. However, if you get frustrated with poor communication, this is probably not the game for you. For the most part, this game plays excellently, and most people I've played with have loved it. However, there have been a few scenarios where the correct answer doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like someone falling to their death because they were sleepwalking, and the answer to why they were killed is the heat, because I guess they woke up because the room was too hot and they wanted to turn it down in their sleep, whereas to us, the logical answer is, well, they died because of sleepwalking. In my opinion, you can just choose to house rule these answers because sometimes there's just no way for your teammates to guess the right answer given the context of the scenario. And sometimes we're just like, close enough, you win. It's also a shame when you have, a game where somebody blows their 2 guesses early because they're so convinced that they're right, and then they just have to sit out for the entire game. I think based on the gameplay, you're going to know pretty well if you have a group of friends who are going to enjoy this game. I have friends who do not enjoy strategic games or long playthroughs, but love games like Cards Against Humanity. This is the type of game that those players will love, but it elicits a bit more thought and a bit more group-created fun instead of just relying on the game to provide everything. This is a very accessible game. It's abstract, it's fun, it's unique, and I think it's a wonderful addition to any shelf because of its low price point, its quick play, its quick setup. Very good game. That's my review for Paranormal Detectives. I hope you've enjoyed this review. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please consider supporting the channel by liking this video or subscribing to the channel, and especially hitting that bell icon. Feel free to leave comments in the comments section below. I love talking with you guys. Until next video, I'll see you then. Thanks.